I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, my music changed genre. Anyway, welcome to ohmTown Daily News Show for November 22nd, 2022. Let's just get into it. Hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. And this is the ohmTown Daily News Show. Again, for November 22nd, 2022. I do my show at 6 p.m. Eastern every single day. I haven't missed an episode yet. But holidays are coming. And I might end up being late, maybe a couple of times. Not sure. This episode is episode 326. And it's titled Toys, Cars, Swifties, an Old Wine Glass, and More News. Let's get into the news. The first article for today is over in the Law Nerd channel, and it is titled, This Toy Company May Have Barked Up the Wrong Whiskey-Saturated Tree. I saw a couple of articles about this kind of go rolling through. I haven't read anything yet, just like normal. My reaction is live reaction. I may have experience with the topic to some degree, maybe a moderately associated, I wouldn't even say tangential. Anyway, this is an article over at abovethelaw.com by Chris Williams, and it says, it actually says bad boy. I'm not quite sure why. I'm sure the context is in this. A court agreed on Monday to hear a dispute between the maker of Jack Daniel's whiskey and the company that manufactures dog toys resembling the Tennessee distillery's iconic bottle. So this is going to be a trade dress dispute. Has to be, right? As a lawyer, as a lawyer, this person, I am not a lawyer. I am not your attorney. Even if I was an attorney, I'm not your attorney, but I'm not an attorney. So anyway, I'm reading this article, and it starts out as a lawyer, not me, them. They get the qualitative feeling many of you get. You can use a good drink, right? Yeah, a lot of us need to have a good drink. Anyway, they also say they get the quantitative feeling too. Alcoholism runs rampant within the profession. Yes, that is almost meme level for attorneys. When you ask somebody if attorneys drink, every attorney, that's how you know it's an attorney in the room. Regardless of where they are in the room, they'll start giggling. Yeah, attorneys drink, apparently. The court agreed on Monday to hear a dispute between the maker of Jack Daniel's and this dog toy maker. Jack Daniel's says the plastic toys are tarnishing its brand and violating its federal trademark rights. On the toy's label, the name Jack Daniel's is replaced with Bad Spaniels, and the words Old Number 7 brand and Tennessee Sour Mash whiskey are replaced with the Old Number 2 on your Tennessee carpet. While the whiskey bottle notes that it's 40% alcohol by volume, the toy says 43% poo by volume and 100% smelly. Okay, so I would have to argue that this is not going to end well for... Well, okay, you can throw a ton of money and maybe a court, particularly since it's going to the SCOTUS. These are the things. Anyway, it's satirical, and it's probably going to end up being... Well, like I said, I just don't know. I don't know about this Supreme Court. I don't know about... There's another article in ohmTown right now about, are we in a simulation? Well, I can assure you, within ohmTown, it is a simulation. We're all just bots. But this is a joke piece. It's a dog toy. Can a dog toy be satirical? Can the makers of it make it something that's satirical? Seems pretty satirical to me. I don't see where anybody can look at that dog toy and think, oh, this must be a bottle of Jack Daniels. And if you're talking about tarnishing the brand and violating trademark, I would probably step away from the reputational hit that maybe there would be confusion between that bottle as a toy and that bottle as a drink, as a dog toy, right? So, and the other one is, well, you just get smashed. So, at any rate, I don't quite get why they would be going so hard at this. For those intently following the right to spoof, the case name is Jack Daniels Properties Incorporated v. VIP Products LLC and will be brought before the court around February or March. Again, this article is by Chris Williams over at Above the Law. Follow that link. That's over in Showbot. So if you type in ohmTown.showbot.tv, it'll provide you all of the links. You can follow those links over to the various articles within ohmTown. And then in that article, down at the bottom of it, it's going to say, take me to your leader. And it's actually visit the source, but it will take you to the leader. I had somebody reach out to me about an article that was on ohmTown recently. And they said, hey, give credit where credit is due. And I do, because I say visit the source, except that it's by proxy. And so I removed the article because, well, I mean, I kind of was, and I figured I was doing harm. So maybe I was doing harm. Is it? Does linking to the very source that I got it from constitute harm? I don't think so, but okay. Hey, guess what? The next article's in the Word in Tech. And this was about words, so that's where my brain went there. Kia's rebrand has left many people wondering who KN is. And yeah, that actually, when I first saw the new Kia logo, it looks like KN. So let's go look at that. Right? Doesn't it look like KN to you? It's not. It's Kia. Yeah. It's anyway. Kia's rebrand has left many people wondering who KN is. A tale of rebrands, search engine optimization, and the difficulty of trying to figure out what car you're looking at. Yeah. Mitchell Clark over at TheVerge.com wrote this article. And it says here, each month there are about 30,000 web searches for KN car, according to data posted by ad agency owner Ashwin Krishnaswamy. Hopefully I did that last name some justice. Over on Twitter. Anyway, the spikes in searches, which seems to come from people trying to figure out if they've missed the launch of an entirely new car company, started early last year, right around the time the vehicles with the new logo would have been hitting the streets, according to The Drive. Yep. I've made that same, what the heck is that car? And then I looked a little bit longer and said, ew, it's Kia. There you go. If you see a car with a KN brand on it, it's actually Kia. Which I really don't like so Kia isn't just a name, but I'm going to move on. Now you know, folks, it's a public service of ohmTown and the mayor of ohmTown, that's me, to remind you that if you see a car with the branding KN, it's actually Kia. The next article is over on the Daily News Show. Oregon governor pardons 45,000 marijuana offenders in bid to right the wrongs of failed drug war. Agree. I saw this early, if you count midnight on the East Coast to be the break between one day and another. We are in a cycle. Anyway, I saw this right before I went to bed. And immediately said, awesome. So apparently this is Governor Keith Brown, seen here speaking during a press conference with California Governor Gavin Newsom on October 6, 2022 in San Francisco, and giving the thumbs up on pardoning 45,000 simple marijuana offenders. And that's the key phrase here. This isn't stuff where somebody apparently was even remotely harmed. No one deserves to be forever saddled with the impacts of a conviction for simple possession of marijuana, a crime that is no longer on the books in Oregon, said outgoing Governor Keith Brown. So this is an article over at commondreams.org by Brett Wilkins, and it says it was the intent to right the wrongs of a flawed, inequitable, and outdated criminal justice system. Agree. I think marijuana is healthier for you than cigarettes. Healthier, not healthy, mind you, because you're breathing in burnt particles of whatever. It's doing some level of harm. Those particles don't come out. Some do, not all of them. Let's not nitpick. While Oregonians, use marijuana at similar rates, Black and Latinx people have been arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionate rates, said Brown. We are a state and a nation of second chances for the estimated 45,000 individuals who are receiving a pardon for prior state convictions of marijuana possession. This action will help relieve the collateral consequences arising from these convictions. Yeah, I think it's great. In simple possession where no one is hurt, I think it really should amount to nothing. Even the ones where someone is hurt, maybe it should be enumerated in some way that the possession wasn't or shouldn't have been illegal even then. But obviously breaking the contract, the social contract of not causing other people harm, simply like assault and battery and so on, is still a criminal act. At any rate, I get easily sidetracked. Although Brown's policy won't free anyone currently serving prison time for marijuana offenses, drug reform advocates cheered her move, with the Drug Policy Alliance calling it great news. I think anybody that's serving time should be freed as well. I know that it's a change in the temperament of society to allow marijuana, but if they are serving time for something that is currently legal, I think we should let those people free. A bigger problem here, though, I would say that it's a bigger problem is that our criminal justice system doesn't, once you're in prison, rehabilitation is sporadic. I'll see if I can find some stats on this, but recidivism and really rehab to re-engage in the social contract, the societal contract of being a member of society and not cause harm in the process of it. I don't think that's really, I don't know if they've figured it out in the criminal justice system, put it to you that way. So perhaps all of those that are in jail but didn't do harm, right, as we measure it today, the use and abuse of marijuana is not necessarily illegal now. It is to the federal system, but not to the states. Maybe the states need to reevaluate and let those people free if all it was simple possession and they're in jail for it. Because it does rise to a certain level where you do end up doing time. Maybe it's time to let them loose, reevaluate. make sure that they're ready to re-engage though in society, because like I said, the criminal justice system doesn't seem to really encourage broad spectrum counseling, advising, mentoring, making somebody job ready while they're in prison. It's largely for profit manufacturing of stuff, or isolation. They're limited to interacting with perhaps the same people that they were outside with, that led to criminal activity that ended them up in jail, criminal at the time. I mean, it's a very complex, not just a, either yes or no kind of answer. There's a lot of sociological forces at stake here. And that's a lot of the reason why there's such disparity in the use of law enforcement and stuff like that. People end up in jail largely because of the circles that we run in. Anyway, let's move on. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Taylor Swift's tour promoter says it had no choice but to work with Ticketmaster. And I found this really interesting because I've been wondering why everybody was complaining about Ticketmaster. For a particular reason is why I went looking, but I know that there's copious issue with Ticketmaster. But when you peel back the layers of the onion, which I never really paid attention to because I wasn't a concert goer, and it wasn't something that a client had ever asked me about, largely because now I know why, because I've never had an entertainment venue that would have used Ticketmaster as a client. But anyway, now I know, and it's quite fascinating, and I'll tell you now too. So CNBC is the source of this article. And again, if you go to ohmTown.showbot.tv, those are the links that will lead you through ohmTown over to the source. Because ohmTown isn't a news aggregator, so it grabs a bunch of content under certain keywords or categories and then funnels it into ohmTown.com. Well, this article is over at cnbc.com, written by Sarah Whitten, and I found it really interesting, not only here but because I had started reading about this elsewhere and then found it in the last 24 hours within ohmTown. Taylor Swift's tour promoter is shifting blame for the botched Eras ticket sale squarely on the shoulders of Ticketmaster, and AEG presents rejected the claims made by Ticketmaster and Live Nation's largest shareholder that the promoter chose to work with the ticketing site. In quote unquote here, Ticketmaster's exclusive deals with the vast majority of venues on the Eras tour required us to ticket through their system, AEG said in a statement to CNBC. We didn't have a choice. And I find this really interesting, right? Because everybody says, why are they going through Ticketmaster? It's a horrible site. It's always a horrible experience. It's not always. Sometimes it's, inconsequential. But this was just a dumpster fire, hot mess. Taylor Swift's tour promoter is shifting blame for the botched Eras ticket sale. There's no blame to shift. It's always been Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster is the reason. I've heard other commentators on this material say that other ticketing services that had seats for this also experienced a problem. Well, I would probably look at the back end in the context of this. Maybe they all have a crappy back end, but one that really shouldn't would be the monopolistic one, which is Ticketmaster. They basically broke this distribution of Taylor Swift's tickets, although I wouldn't have launched it under that many venues all at once. I probably would have rolled it out Hell, you maybe even would have gotten knock on kind of ticket purchasers where they purchased this one, and then because they don't know if they were going to get the next one, you could price those ticket in tranches, if you want to be a greedy bastard and, uh, you know, just kind of fish people along for a while. But this was wild, where the system broke and tickets were like $35,000 or something like that. Um, anyway, they have all kinds of fees, like a convenience fee and a no paper ticket fee and this fee and that fee, and it's all made up by them, to nickel and dime, because they are the silos of this information, the silos of the service. That's literally nickeling and diming people. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I pay for a damn ticket and you get the juice from that. You get the margin that's made by the ticket, the concert, the actual entertainment, and you get the margin between the seat cost and what they're demanding, as a percentage, and maybe they pay a fee. It depends on the venue and all kinds of stuff, man. The things need to be simpler, except that people are very exploitive, and they'll sit there and say, well, this venue has a 1 degree of ocean view, and so I'm going to charge $25 more. I mean, that's how you leave no money on the table. But it's such a greedy bastard concept, I guess. As far as vitriol being nixed from my stream, sometimes it's just appropriate. I guess. Swift herself blamed an outside entity and said she wouldn't make excuses for anyone. Yeah, I mean, the way that this works is that Ticketmaster basically has contracts with venues, and how do you charge more? You be in charge of the tickets for the very venues, and you lay them out in a certain rate so that only certain people can purchase them at certain prices, and you maximize the drip of those seats. You also say to the venues, you can't go anywhere else. I mean, it's a very Walmart-y kind of a thing. Because Walmart makes deals with manufacturers, the producers, and says, you have to sell it to us at a lower percentage than anyone else. And if you try and offer it at a lower price to anyone else, we can charge you the difference, or demand the refund of the difference between the previous amount and this amount. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's pretty wild. They're in control of it, and they crash it, or they make a situation where people have to pay $3,500 for a ticket. I think that, well, I mean, if the venues are willing to, but what leverage does Ticketmaster have that a venue can't sit there and say, well, we're going to let this organization and this organization and this organization, well, they wanted the faster, cheaper money instead of, selling it themselves. Hey, a WordPress site can actually set you up pretty damn quick, and it can support quite a bit. I don't know if it can handle 53 venues, but the venue, I mean, just have the people go to the venue. I know you wanted to make it frictionless for Taylor Swift fans, but for crying out loud, One Stop Shop failed you. It's time to break it up. But business will do what business does, and it'll find an engineering solution. Perhaps overly engineered. This next article is in the Law Nerd channel, and it says, our top tier law schools pulling away from U.S. news because of concerned action or concerted action. So let's click this link and we'll just go over there real quick. And it says here, this is by Chris Williams at Above the Law as well. Sure would be cool if we all just independently did the same thing as each other within a very short period of time, such that it would be as if we all decided to do the same thing together. That's a great statement. amounts to the I did this. You did this. I did this. I did this. Amazon, Google, Meta. Mere mention of these companies make antitrust lawyer ears perk up like Eminem at a rhyming word at a rhyming words with orange convention. All right. Oh, Mr. Williams. Quite humorous. Pardon me one second. Yeah, so Yale Law School last week pulled out from the U.S. News ranking shortly after Harvard, Berkeley, Georgetown, Columbia, Stanford, and Michigan followed suit. This is a quote. And do these universities risk violating antitrust laws by withdrawing from the U.S. News rankings if the law schools... This is quite interesting, right? There's no surprise here either that antitrust complications of these market share giants have been well discussed in the past. They have another article from a couple of months ago. So they too may be the new rhyme and reason for the Sherman Act's ire. So if the law schools withdrew independently from the U.S. News ranking, that cannot constitute a violation of Section 1 of the Sherman Act, which applies only to agreements to restrain trade. But if the law school's parallel withdrawal masks an agreement among them to boycott U.S. news rankings, that agreement could potentially be anti-competitive for harming the quality competition among law schools. Interesting. So, do all of these companies, profit-seeking, not for profit, but still taking money, because a not-for-profit doesn't mean that it doesn't accept money. So these organizations, if they all walked away because there has been some unseen, unheard, unknowable gentleman's agreement, gentleperson's agreement, then maybe they're in violation of the Sherman Act. Interesting. Guess we'll have to wait and see. But it says here, is it considered action or is it concerned action? We're going to see something else later on. They simply can't leave the U.S. news. We'll get into it. Maybe. I think it's one of my last articles for today. This next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. FTX court says Sam Bankman-Fried ran FTX as a personal fiefdom, and the collapse was described in court as one of the most abrupt and difficult in corporate America. I wouldn't call this corporate America. I would call this nothing more than what amounts to a fear of missing out, over exuberant money grab. It is the equivalent of selling virtual landscape for the metaverse, as if there is only one virtual landscape for the metaverse. And I say metaverse because cyberspace has lost its meaning, apparently. I would prefer cyberspace than metaverse, because now Meta, Facebook, cough, seems to have absconded metaverse. Anyway, so this is the same type of processing that brought down Adelphia Computer and many others. Adelphia Communications, and many others, which is treating the company as their own bank, as their own, do whatever they want with it. The true state of FTX's finances was only known now. And they claim that Mr. Bankman-Fried's team spent roughly $300 million on holiday homes and property for senior staff. right there. I said this in the last article, or the last stream that I had, maybe day before yesterday. I mentioned this. You treat it like it's your personal bank, and you're done for. November 2nd, documents leak online showing Alameda Research, a cryptocurrency hedge fund run by Sam Bankman-Fried, was financially unstable and reliant on a coin which was by sister company FTX. Changpeng Zhao, boss of FTX rival Binance, announces the firm is selling its holdings in FTX-linked coins due to recent revelations. The value of FTX crypto coins plummets, and panicked customers rush to cash out. These are the people that were trusting in the FTX-linked coins, but are not connected. Socially, politically, financially connected. Information moves a whole lot faster when large value of assets are involved. It's not really the small fish that find out first. The big fish have bigger ears. 2 days later, FTX suspends withdrawals, basically screwing all the slow to move people or not capable of doing it people. That same day, Changpeng announces that Binance is looking to buy FTX to protect users. A day later, it walks away from the sale, citing concerns that mishandling of customer funds and alleged U.S. agency investigations. That same day, Bankman-Fried attempts to gather emergency funding to plug the $8 billion shortfall in finances. And on November 11th, Sam Bankman-Fried resigns and files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And my understanding is somewhere around this time frame, $400 million in cryptocurrency was exfiltrated from FTX. So that'll be interesting because they're still investigating where that might be. But this is the thing that's going to end him in jail, because he treated it as a personal bank, essentially, and bought personal property using the bank's funds for quasi-professional reasons, right? A company doesn't buy that many homes for the C-suite. I think I forgot to mention that Joe Tidy is the reporter for this over at bbcnews.com. I just kind of jumped on my soapbox and started talking about this. But let's continue on with the next article. Sabrent's new Rocket Nano SSD is smaller than a credit card. I kind of dig small portable drives. Sabrent has announced a redesigned version of its tiny Rocket Nano portable SSD with up to 4 terabytes and speeds ideal for 8K video. This is kind of amazing technology. It's over at appleinsider.com, but like most things that are Apple related, it ends up in Smack Talk there at ohmTown if you're interested in Apple related stuff. Andrew Orr is the author of this over at Apple Insider, though. I grabbed it from ohmTown's aggregation because I'm always interested in new gadgets. I like to talk about them. I want to have a whole show about it. Not just Smack Talk, which focuses on Apple, but Wanted, which is generally going to be a show about the latest gadgets. And because there is not enough time in the universe for me to touch and consume every gadget that I find amazing and want to talk about, it will be a news-related show focusing on the aggregate of all kinds of gadgets and other tech and whatnot that we want. It will be sans, I guess, the kind of news that is part and parcel to the ohmTown Daily News Show. So stay tuned for that. I am planning on launching that in the new year. So January should see 5 new shows coming. And I'm still considering doing an IP business strategic management show on the weekend. Still evaluating that. It requires a lot more, but I want to spend more time here on Twitch. So let me know if you're interested in that kind of thing. This gadget, though, is the Sabrent Rocket Nano SSD. It says it's smaller than a credit card, can hold up to 4 terabytes, crafted from high-grade aluminum alloy, solid state. It's external, so you're going to have to attach it to something. USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 interface, supports data transfer speeds of 1500 megabytes, not bits. The capital B is bytes. So for maximum speeds when handling large data transfers, and that's kind of the slow part of this, is going to be transitioning from whatever the connection is. If it is just an SSD and not an M.2 SSD, that would probably make this speed reasonable. I mean, it's still capable of 8K. So that's pretty inexpensive, right? So it's a small drive. If you were to stack maybe 3.5 quarters long, that's how tall this drive is, and a little bit, maybe a third wider than a quarter here in the States. The 4 terabyte drive, though, is $500. So, I mean, 1 terabyte at $120 is tolerable. There's a mid-tier drive that they don't have the price for, but I won't follow their link and go over there, only because I want you to go over to appleinsider.com and show Andrew Orr that you like this article. Of course, you can follow it via the link. You can get there via the link in ohmTown. Let's keep rolling through all of the articles. This one is in the Order of the Grape channel, which is all about wine. 300-year-old Chinese wine glass set to sell for up to $6 million. So at an auction, the white jade Phoenix container is expected to fetch millions of dollars during the auction later this month, according to Chinese wine media outlet Vino Joy. It's part of an over 40-piece collection archiving China's drinking culture, hosted at the auction site website Bonhams. The collection, dubbed Ganbai, a toast to the Chinese wine culture, spans over 3,000 years of wine-related artifacts, as the listing shares. That's pretty amazing. I'm surprised that it was how did it get exfiltrated from China proper? You would think that this would have been caught or reclaimed by somebody. 300-year-old Chinese wine glass set to sell for up to $6 million at auction. So this is an article over at vinepair.com by Nicolette Baker. And it shows this seemingly perfect. It looks like more like a wine jug to me, but it says it's a wine glass. The white jade Phoenix container is expected to fetch millions of dollars during the auction. I don't know how to describe this. It's a white stone container, but it looks like a gravy boat on top of a bourbon bottle, and just kind of welded together at a thick point. So if you're listening to this in the podcast, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like, but it has these kind of rings on it that are kind of something that you would see on a big container, like a brazier or something like that, something to be able to hook onto and lift it. But this is apparently pretty small, not too big. At any rate, looks like it's in perfect condition from here. The picture isn't actually particularly stunning, but it says, in imitation of an archaistic bronze gong. There you go. That's what I was trying to get at. Finely carved with stylized phoenix panels on both sides, standing on a slightly splayed foot, carved below the lip rim with a phoenix head suspending a loose ring. The faceted handle well carved with a playful key dragon, With its head and a paw resting on the rim, its sinuous body coiled through the handle, the translucent stone of an attractive milky white tone with an area of amber inclusion below the lipped rim. And apparently it has a box because it says, comma, box. So it's pretty neat. I don't know. I would probably treat this like a car and say, well, I can't justify $3 million, $6.4 million US dollars. Pretty neat. Next article is in the Law Nerd channel. Crank Harvard law professor trolled by crank comedian in bizarre world collision. I always love above the law articles. This is Joe Patrice. It's peak 2022 is what he says. South Park once mocked the show Family Guy, suggesting all of the latter show's gags are produced by manatees mashing together pop culture references at random. Perhaps the universe is taking lessons from the manatees after Twitter provided a mind-melting exchange between Harvard Law's resident theocrat Adrian Vermeule and 90s trivia answer Rob Schneider. Yeah, okay. Joe Patrice, thanks for bringing this to our attention. It says here, Adrian Vermeule, I'm not sure how they pronounce their last name. Perhaps Elon Musk can work a kind of miracle, unifying all of Twitter on that view that America's new public square ought not to be the private plaything of an arbitrary, childish, and vulgar billionaire. Wow. This is a thing that is real in 2022. Vermeule spent the pandemic dreaming up a bargain basement theocracy, arguing that conservatism had lost its way by embracing theories of originalism that amount to pseudo-intellectual efforts to reverse engineer outcomes, and instead advocates a sort of Catholic integralism based on religious authoritarianism or something. He tried to backtrack on that essay pretty quickly, but Judge William Pryor recently included Vermeule on the Federalist Society enemies list along with Above the Law, so maybe we need to cut him some slack now. Well, yeah, I've been saying that that's pretty much where we are headed with oligarchs, politically connected, ultra rich, and throw in the religious component, and you have a theocratic fascist plutocracy. It may take longer than it took Turkey to shift, but we have a lot of I don't know, freedom in the guise, or I should say fascism in the guise of freedom. And it's going to be great for one vocal, loud component, but that's about it. And so in support of society and humans being innately social animals, who, by the way, when we are younger, do not care about religion or gender or socioeconomic status or so many other things. Yet it's supposed to be a slight that somebody calls you childish. Well, maybe if we could take away some of the understanding, or I should say lack of barriers that children have for accepting people into their life, and didn't actually have such disparity that people have to turn to crime to feel like they're in control of their life and that they're making an opportunity, even at odds with the social contract. Equity, openness, engagement, understanding, all of these things, and all of that spawned from this article, because it just seems like we are building polarity, and wingnuts suggesting that everybody should practice your particular religious tilt. But anyway, it says here, that's when he was actually noteworthy. At this point, the guy is only really important for having such a much more talented daughter, apparently, Rob Schneider. But getting back to the substance of the exchange, it's a transcendent artifact of late-stage reactionary politics. A hard-right law professor champions core little c conservative aesthetics of religious modesty against the right wing's newest hero, a South African tech bro who set billions of dollars on fire so that the GOP rank and file could use the N-word online, and all the prof gets for his efforts is a crude public clapback from Deuce Bigelow. It's funny. Anyway. There's another Reddit for where I would have submitted that, but I'm not going to say it here on the stream. At any rate, the next article is in the Law Nerd channel. Yale and Harvard can't quit. The ATL, by the way, the law school rankings. So check this out. So we don't rely on self-reported data. So is this the beginning of the end for the lamentable hegemony of the U.S. News and World Report? Law school rankings, definitely, maybe, as the publication Time, Harvard, Berkeley, Georgetown, Columbia, Stanford, Michigan, and Northwestern have all followed Yale's lead and declared that they'll no longer answer to submitting data to U.S. News and World Report on various things that allow them to rank colleges, universities. So maybe, is this what's going to happen? Is that Above the Law is going to have their own now? ATL has been publishing our own law school rankings for a decade, and our approach, in stark contrast to US NWR, is entirely outcome driven. ATL's is the only ranking to incorporate the ABA employment data for the most recently graduated class. While we don't believe our ranking or any ranking should dictate an individual law school applicant's decision-making, rankings are a useful tool provided the user grasps the underlying methodology and priorities of the list maker. Yeah, and that's kind of the problem, is that at some point, U.S. News and World Report ranking of schools became something that you could just flip to. The society's ideology about accepting that particular business model, that process, shifted, and some schools bowed out. And it's largely about this whole elitist conservatism versus blah, 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 kind of back and forth, like two gangs. And so there are some people that won't hire graduates from this college or that college because of the ideology, apparently, of the college, and that it might, and sometimes it does, show through as being the reason why somebody made a decision this way or that way, right? I know it's hard to be nebulous and actually make a point, but this is just a magazine, and we give it semiotic ontology. We've given it value and purpose and meaning because we've accepted it as the answer of the question, which school should I go to? It should be tougher than that. Why? Because they're feeding one chart to a plurality of people, and the context, the minutia that is the human condition, has to be assessed by somebody, either the student or the accepting school has to, deduce from grades and from writing and, letters of recommendation and extracurricular activities, all playing a role in being accepted in school. Because some schools, they want provenance and notoriety from their graduates, and they then in turn get all of the glory. Arguably, they get a lot of money sometimes, But in any case, the objective is to make sure that they pump out well-qualified, sometimes holistic students, depending on the school that they go to. So it may be tough for you to look at. It's tough for me to look at U.S. News and World Report on the school rankings, but when I'm looking at it, I just see everybody being categorized. This, that, or the other. Then they just look at it and go, oh, it's number one, so I want to go there. It may not be number one for you, and you may die on the vine when you get there. You will just sit there and be apoplectic because the school is aggressive beyond what that article told you about. And when you went there, you didn't really detect it. And then when you started, it's soul crushing. And now you hate, law or whatever you end up at. So anyway, I guess in a way, look at more than one ranking. Look for opinions and talk to students that have gone there. Go to the subreddits for the college or the region and talk to people. It's fine. Take your time. Choose right so that you don't have to relocate, change your major again and again, burn time. You can make more money. You can take more classes, but you can't get time back. And if you have a swift objective, then time is really not, it's not your friend. You want to do as much as possible, get through school and get into the workforce. Some people are like that. Other people are completely meandering through what they want to do. And some people 50 years later still don't know what they want to do. So, yeah, as far as the U.S. News and World Report, I stopped paying attention to that decades ago. And just to let you know, I wasn't in school decades ago. Yeah, I'm a non-conventional student. Let's just put it to you that way. So Yale and Harvard can't quit the ATL law school rankings like they did the U.S. News and World Report rankings because the ATL doesn't require any of that information from the school. It's about my understanding is it's more technical and just says, look, students from these schools get hired over at this place. It's all about employment and performance from what I understand, right? So go check it out. At any rate, that is it for today's ohmTown Daily News Show. Runs about an hour usually. I've been trying to go slower through the news, so if anybody wants to chat about a particular topic, they might stumble into the room and ask questions, but I know that a lot of people actually kind of lurk, like I've been doing in somebody else's channel right now. At any rate, I will see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. I will do this at 6 p.m. Every day until January 1st, and I'll reevaluate between now and then if I'm going to move it up or down an hour because I want to launch another hour of show around the daily news show. So a new topic for each night after the ohmTown Daily News Show. Or before. I don't know. I don't want to keep pushing the Daily News Show later and later, but at some point, what I want to do is going to eat into the rest of life. And so I need to figure out how many shows I can actually do a night. One show for 3 hours isn't really my nature. I like breaking things up into sections. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. That's why I love the news. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Hey, BZ. Wow. I'm at the end of my show, but I will hang out and talk. Welcome everybody from BZ show. I appreciate you coming on over. I am Mayor Watt, and that is ohmTown.com over there. Oh, my graphics are messed up. I'm really sorry. Welcome everybody. Wow, hold on. Let me see who all came in. Oh, so many people. Hey Scooby, thanks for the follow. Hi Kai and Tushu. BZ, of course. How are you? You were still playing Spider-Man, yeah? I don't have many things to like notify everybody in the stream where you were coming from, but you are all coming from the same place, so I hope you know what was being streamed. Yeah, I was in your stream and I took off. I missed the end of it. Sorry about that. I've actually been lurking, but you've been muted, and then you just showed up. So thanks for coming over. If you have any questions, I'm happy to discuss them with you. What's going on here is that ohmTown is a news aggregation site set up by me for my professional purposes, and then I introduced it to a bunch of people. They thought it was really neat. And what it does is it reaches out and aggregates about 200 news sources, much like a search engine, except that I don't have to search for anything unless I want to. I just love the feed of information constantly flowing into ohmTown. And then what I want to do is do 50 1-hour shows that get turned into not only 24 hours, 7 days a week of content here on Twitch, streaming original content, and when not streaming original content, past episodes. And then it gets turned into a YouTube channel and it gets turned into a podcast. And I do all of that every day. And I'm starting with ohmTown Daily News Show, which is a composite of all of the news that I find interesting in the day. And I whittle it down to about 10 to 15 articles. There's the 5-minute pitch. I hope that you find it interesting. Thanks, Business, or do you go by Brad? Business Brad, thank you for following. I appreciate it. I am not new, but my show is only an hour long. I'm staying late for y'all, but I welcome you to come back. I do it every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I mostly talk about everything from the crossroads of business, technology, and society. That's what I actually do every day to businesses and individuals and groups. So got it. I will keep doing this show come January, but I'm going to actually add 5 more shows, one unique show a night. So I'm going to be talking about movies one night and gadgets another night, as well as doing the ohmTown Daily News Show, and keep on trying to grow. I'm not sure if BZ said anything before coming over, but I don't advertise my channel. I just do this 1-hour show, and I hope that people come back. It will be changing, and so will the site. Hopefully by January, we'll have a new site that has a constant flow of news trickling in. But when you go into any of these little sub channels, which are actual channels that I want to bring a show to Twitch with, there will be content that is relevant to that particular bit of information, that category. Like Distillerist is about drinking spirits, and Policy Metrics is about policy. Smash or Trash is about evaluating gadgets. Continuity Report is about movies, TV shows, anything that might have a continuity report, which is a legit thing. It allows people to track where every little object is and make sure that when they move from one place to another, or they cut a scene and start over, the continuity report makes sure that the glass is in the right hand, or the sign is seen the same way from this angle or that angle. It's pretty neat. And so I like talking about movies and TV shows, and then finding something within it that kind of makes you go, oh, they broke it. And people get paid money to make sure that everything is identical shot to shot, because they have to break it down and then do it again. There's so many topics that I am interested in. ABZ, I even have jewel crafting in here. You probably don't go looking for stuff like that, but I'm into maker stuff. And that was actually one of the streams that we were considering doing. I've got a CNC and I've got a laser and I've got 3D printers. And so what I do when I'm not running ohmTown is business related and intellectual property related. So that's one of the shows that I talk about, called Hatch Ideas. And there's a couple of others like Right Protect, Law Nerd, etc. There's a bunch. So yeah, I can imagine. Oh, and I had a forge at one time, and got a bunch of stuff. I've got what's referred to as a lab, the mad scientist lab, right? It's really just a basement, but I've got all kinds of stuff. At any rate, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And if you want to talk about the news or pretty much anything, I'm really honest about this, and I have a lot of experience. I'm further in the old camp than the young camp, I'll put it to you that way. And so I've done a lot of business, and I've seen a lot of things, and most of the topics that are even aggregated, I have some experience with to some degree, or there's something related to it that we can talk about where it's some knock-on effect, like, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. A lot of people wouldn't really realize or even care that there is an event going on, and there is a knock-on effect of this Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Let's call it for what it really is. There is no conflict. It's Russia invading Ukraine and Ukraine defending itself. But in that is oil is now more expensive, natural gas is more expensive, and wheat around the world was grown in Ukraine, and it's growing season now, except that everybody's blowing everybody else up. So wheat is astronomically expensive, and that has a knock-on effect to our entire consumer price index, which has been shooting through the roof, almost vertical. And this is one of the things that I talk about, because it all starts with tech, goes through business, and ends up impacting society. We know about the conflict in Russia because in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, because information is now instantaneous, and that's just how fast the price for something can be impacted. Now there's a conflict, in the Russia-Ukraine region, and that is going to instantly drive the prices for gas and food around the world up. Within an hour of the notice of a conflict, the price jumped again for everything. So that's just one of the things that we end up talking about here in the ohmTown Daily News Show. Eventually, I will break out large portions of it, but other than that, that's kind of how the show works. Questions? I don't want to. I feel like I'm a bad host because I'm leaving. But y'all are awesome for coming in. I really appreciate the follows that I got. Thank you for hanging out still. I see some of you are still here. Feel free to click that follow, and you'll find out when I do another show. It would be 6 p.m. Eastern though. So if, and I try not to get too political. I try not to, kind of drive people away, because I want honest communication. And I will bend the streams so that I can, and by stream, I mean these streams, so that I can hang out with y'all. and answer the questions regardless of what they are. And I don't like vitriolic argumentation. We just chat and have a good time while we're doing it. Because I talk about games and stuff too. Yeah, quite a lot of stuff goes on here at ohmTown, so I hope you dig it. Hi, Tricks. Thanks for coming. How many? My gosh, there's so many people that I missed saying hi to, but I know all of you from over at BZ's Zoo. Is that? Anyway, where should I send you all? James and Michelle are playing. How about I do that? Let's raid James and Michelle, right? Hold on a second. Let me do it the right way. So I'm going to raid. There you go. I'm going to raid James and Michelle. They're always a blast. Hey, not a problem. My pleasure. I'm glad that the raid came in and everybody dug it for as long as I was sitting there on my soapbox talking about the show. Eventually, I'll be playing games too. We only have a little bit of time before I obviously push you over to James and Michelle. I'm just waiting for more people to say anything. You want to talk about Dancing with the Stars crowns the season 31 winner? I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.